Now, who done it? That's always the question in Cluedo.
You are invited to a murder. A stranger lies dead in Arlington Grange. There are 6 suspects, but which one is the killer? Could it be Mrs. Peacock, lady of the manor and beautiful society hostess? Perhaps Colonel Mustard, military hero and intimate family friend? Is Reverend Green a saint or sinner? Is it Professor Plum, a man with a degree of suspicion? Miss Scarlett, Mrs. Peacock's glamorous stepdaughter? Or Mrs. White, loyal housekeeper and devoted confidant? Your host for Cluedo, Chris Tarrant.
Hello there, welcome once again to Cluedo. Another dastardly deed has been done. There's been another murder at Arlington Grange. Now, once again, you can play along at home and see if your wits are sharper than tonight's guest detectives. They probably are when you meet. Currently starring as Coronation Street's Alma Sedgwick, actress Amanda Barry, and former school teacher, host of Bullseye, Jim Bowen. And battling against them tonight, we've got former EastEnders star, now presenter of The Word, Michelle Collins, and top Radio 1 disc jockey, Mike Reed. Right, now, teams, I can tell you, it's a test of both deduction and elimination again. We need you to find out where the deed was done, what it was done with, and most important of all, of course, who done it. Now, we'll meet the suspects in just a couple of minutes, but first of all, I can tell you all it was one of these weapons that did the deed. Now, was it the spanner? Was it the knife? Was it the poison? Was it the candlestick? Was it the shotgun or the telephone flex? And I can tell you that the late departed disappeared from this earth in one of these rooms. Now, was it in the kitchen, the study, the dining room, the drawing room, the billiard room, or the library? Okay, 6 weapons, 6 rooms. It was done in one of those with one of those weapons. Now, first of all, your first bit of evidence. The locals of Arlington have been looking forward for years to things like summer fetes and harvest festivals. But this is the first time the locals have really had to put up with a rock festival.
Yes, Your Grace, your policy of looking after church buildings has gone down very well here. You won't find a congregation more devout in its reverence for its place of worship. I say, you, I want a word with you.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. Why don't you pull up a crate?
How dare you? This is desecration.
No, it's not, Vic. It's decoration. I'm sure if Jesus was alive today, he'd love our commune.
Blasphemy. Show yourself for what you are. I'll do everything in my power to stop this festival.
I do believe we've upset the vicar, Dave.
Come in here for a moment, please. Mrs. White tells me there will be 6 for dinner.
Yes, I want you to meet Dave. You'll like him. He's a free spirit.
A free spirit that could cost us a lot of money. Your latest pet and his cultist friends are ruining this village.
They're not cultists. They have a deeply spiritual attitude to life.
And a deeply depressing effect on property values.
That's all you think about, isn't it, Mother? Money. You're so materialistic.
Oh, my. He is teaching you some big words, isn't he? Has he told you what'll happen when you inherit this place and it isn't worth anything? Has he given you a big name for that?
I don't care. It's only money.
Oh, fine. Perhaps in that case you can do without it.
In that case, I'll just have to marry Dave.
Any trouble, Mike? It'll do for now. Those hooligans of yours have desecrated the church.
They're not my hooligans, Jonathan.
Well, they're on your land.
If I could get them off, I would. A dose of national service. That's what that type needs, if you ask me.
Professor.
I'm sorry I'm late. My dear Uncle Herbert, the last surviving member of my family, is...
Oh, I'm so sorry, Professor. I'd better introduce you. This is Dave, one of Vivian's friends.
Professor Plum. My, it has been a long time, hasn't it?
You mean you know each other?
You could say that. We certainly know a great deal about each other. Don't look so worried, Professor. Yeah, not bad. Has she got any more?
Oh, just fetch more wine, Mrs. White.
So, Prof, what you been up to these days, eh?
Of all the impertinent, ill-mannered little Oh, rust! Oh, dear.
Please, Reverend. Deep down, you both believe in the same thing.
What?
Oh, Viv's right. I'm very devout. I spend 10 minutes every morning chanting.
Chanting?
You should try spending 10 minutes shaving instead.
I don't know. I like the unshaven look.
And didn't Jesus wear a beard?
So you think you're Jesus now?
Oh, no, definitely not. I cleared that up the last time I dropped acid. Hey, perhaps you should try it.
What do you mean, drugs? That's it. I'm sorry, Mrs. Peacock. I can no longer remain at the same table as this man.
Jonathan, please.
It's all right, Mrs. Peacock. And here's none of your doing.
Well, some people just can't take a joke, can they?
Would anyone else care for a liqueur? Unless, of course, one of us might wish to leave.
Well, it sounds like a good idea to me. I'll have a large brandy, please. I'll just take a leak first. Where's the...
At the top of the stairs.
Right.
Excuse me.
May I use your phone?
Of course, Professor.
Lovely place, this. And Viv gets the lot when the old girl pegs it. Almost enough to make me want to settle down and get married.
You'll stay away from Vivian if you know it's good for you.
Greedy, aren't you? You've got the old bag. Why not leave Vivi for me?
Just keep off. She means nothing to you.
Oh, yes, she does. You know how I love poor little rich girls.
I won't tell you again.
Really? Oh, and by the way, our little agreement, you know, the one we're not supposed to tell anyone about? Wouldn't it be awful if Mrs. Peacock somehow found out?
No. It's those drugs. He's gonna die. It's too late for any of that.
Where is that disgusting little man?
Colonel Mustard.
Oh, don't try and be clever. You caused enough trouble tonight. I'll bet he's stealing the taps. That type just can't resist gold plate.
I've told you before, Dave isn't like that. He's not interested in money.
Mrs. White, whatever's the matter?
It's the hippie. He's dead.
So Dave the hippie is no more. He'll be sadly missed, won't he? But who killed him? Let's examine the motives of the 6 suspects. Desperate to save her beautiful home, was it Mrs. Peacock? Was it Dave's obsessed young lover, the devious Miss Scarlett? Deeply insulted and out for revenge, was it Mrs. White? Incensed by the damage done to his church, was it the saintly Reverend Green? Was there a sinister secret from the past that drove Professor Plum to kill him? Or was Dave threatening to expose a shady deal with Colonel Mustard? Our 6 suspects. So there you are, they all look guilty, don't they? 6 suspects, 6 weapons, 6 rooms. Right, you must ask each of the suspects one question. You can't return to any of the suspects. Now, I should tell you that the 5 innocent ones must tell the truth, but the murderer can lie and probably will. Okay? Amanda and Jim, make a start, one of those.
Well, we'll start with
Miss Scarlett.
Miss Scarlett, and we both thought the same thing.
Yes.
We wanted to know, well, did you really love
Did you really love Dave?
Yes, I did.
You really
very much
did.
So.
You can honestly say you really did with those beautiful eyes. You really loved him.
Yes, I did.
You sure?
Absolutely, positively.
Yes, I can tell.
No woman's ever looked at you like that, Jim Bowen. Right, Michelle, Mike.
Colonel Mustard, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Right? Is Dave your son, or are you related?
What? That's scruffy, yobbo. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Categorically not.
Just the way you spoke to him, it sounded so fatherly.
Totally horrified. Okay, hang on. Back to Jim.
Yes. We want to speak to Professor Plum.
Professor Plum?
Yeah.
You're talking about drugs, and you referred to the drugs with relation to a death. Were you referring in that conversation to your Uncle Herbert, which caused you to be late for dinner, or were you referring to Dave?
I'm very fond of my Uncle Herbert.
But I mean, we'd like you to answer the question.
Yes, that's really what we'd
please,
like to
if
do,
you would.
Because we'd like
And
it.
they're using experimental drugs on him for his gout.
Oh.
And I was calling the hospital to speak to Dr. Manischewitz to make sure. I was very angry. I wanted them to stop the treatment, but they were actually treating my uncle with experimental drugs.
They're using that same doctor still. He's still there, is he?
Is he?
As far as I know, yes.
Yes.
Well,
yes, he's been there a while.
Thank you. Okay, well, now again, if Professor Plum's innocent, that has to be true. If he's the murderer, he can tell a lie. Michelle, Mike.
It's a shame when you're putting him through that. What a despicable enemy we have here. Mrs. Peacock, are you and your daughter in league with each other?
In league with each other?
Yes.
She's my stepdaughter, she's not my daughter.
Business-wise.
What would we be in league with each other for?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
No, we're not in league with each
No,
other.
no.
I'm totally against her relationship with Dave the hippie for obvious reasons. We've never been in league with each other.
Just struck a raw nerve there, Reed. Right, one more each.
Well, we decided, Mrs. White, did you have anything at all to gain by what happened?
As a result of this tragedy?
No.
But I mean...
Well, we didn't want to upset her, did we?
Well, we wanted to put it as sensitive as we could. I mean, it was just that when you were crying up, we weren't just sure about the tears.
Well, I was very shocked.
I'm sorry
I
for
just found a
upsetting you now.
body, and I've got no property. It makes no difference to me whether he's alive or
Sorry,
dead.
we didn't mean to upset you.
No,
sorry.
we didn't. We're very sorry about it, aren't we?
I should say, though, that she might be very worried about the future of Arlington Grange if the hippies...
Well, that was what
Yeah.
yes.
Anything at all we were worried about that she might...
There's no monetary gain there for you if...
Oh, no.
Nothing.
No.
Not directly, except it might affect Mrs. Peacock in the future.
In the future, of course, yes.
Right, Michelle, Mike, one more, last one.
Reverend Green,
Good evening.
now when you left the dining room, you went out and you looked into the cupboard, didn't you, of the rifles? What did you do with the rifle?
And was Dave smiling when he was found?
So is that 2 questions?
I think it probably is.
Can I answer
yes.
the first one first? The gun, I took the gun back to the vicarage with me.
Oh, you did take the gun?
Well, actually, I went into the kitchen first and spoke to Mrs. White.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
I
you
remember
did.
that. And then I went back to the vicarage with the gun.
With the gun?
Wouldn't she have asked you what you were doing with taking a gun from there anyway? I know it's another question, but...
It's not a question, right, that's your lot. Right. Okay, right, well, now, you've been very, very busy deliberating with all these things. What have you come up with? I want to know where, what with, and who done it. Jim and Amanda, yep.
Now?
All right.
Sure. Well...
Should we go for...
We'll go for the room.
Yeah.
We think it happened in the kitchen.
Yes.
We were just thrown a little bit there by the Reverend Green being in the kitchen with Mrs. White, but we're still going for the kitchen.
Yeah, I think we're. Do you think we're going for the poison?
Yes, we're going for the poison because we think somehow we're not too happy about when you open the first aid box that poison bottle was left out.
Kitchen and poison.
Yeah.
And who done it?
Well, Colonel Mustard.
Yes, Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard. You're saying kitchen, poison, mustard. Michelle, Mike.
We might not go to the Reverend Green because we think he's lying because we don't think Mrs. White was in the kitchen.
Just tell me who you're going to, Michael. Stop fishing.
Reverend Green.
He's going to kill me afterwards. Reverend Green shot him.
Shotgun?
Yes.
Shotgun.
And whereabouts? Where did you shoot him?
In the kitchen because the sound was distant.
So just so you're saying Reverend Green, shotgun, kitchen. Just give me your motives then. What's your thinking on all that?
The Reverend Green took the gun. He went into the kitchen. Mrs. White clearly wasn't in the kitchen.
And there was
at
a
the time
noise
he went.
as well.
He must be lying.
And there was
and
a
if
noise,
he's lying,
like a muffled
he'd be the murderer.
noise.
You think it was in the kitchen with the gun and that Reverend Green was the murderer? Well, I can tell you that none of those are right. Amanda and Jim, now you said in the kitchen, you said it was done with the poison and that it was Colonel Mustard, and I can tell you that none of those are right either. However, that's not as useless as it may seem, because in fact it does mean that the Reverend Green and Colonel Mustard are now exonerated. I don't know how you're doing at home. I suspect you're probably doing rather better than tonight's guest detectives. Join us again in a couple of minutes for some more Cluedo. Welcome back to the second part of Cluedo after a quarter of an hour's dizzy intellectual cut and thrust between Jim and Amanda on the one side, Mike and Michelle on the other. We've actually got quite a long way down the line, almost by default, because basically they seem to have found out nothing, except that we now know that the murder at Arlington Grange wasn't committed by Colonel Mustard or Reverend Green, because they guessed them and we told them they were wrong. It wasn't done with the poison or the shotgun, and it wasn't done in the kitchen. Okay, right. Now, before you can get back to interrogate the suspects again, some more evidence has come to light of the events at Arlington that afternoon. We start in the kitchen where Reverend Green is getting really cross.
Calm down, Mrs. White. It's only me.
Oh, Vicar, you frightened me. What's going on?
Nothing really, Mrs. White. Don't get alarmed. I've just borrowed one of Mrs. Peacock's guns.
You're not going to shoot that horrible young man, are you?
You've heard of the church militant, haven't you? Well, as from tonight, I'm it.
Just keep off. She means nothing to you.
Oh, yes, she does. You know how I love poor little rich girls.
I won't tell you again.
Really? Oh, and by the way, our little agreement, you know, the one we're not supposed to tell anyone about? Wouldn't it be awful if Mrs. Peacock somehow found out?
I doubt you'd do that.
Try me. I've got a lot invested in this. I'm using the hippies to bring down the land values. And I buy the place up, turf them out, and make a killing. It's beautiful.
Okay, a bit more evidence. Now, once again, you can ask the suspects a question. You can ask any of the suspects. It's your turn, Michelle and Mike.
We would like to ask Colonel Mustard because we've now deduced that he must be telling the truth.
That's right, because he's innocent, so he must be telling the truth. Only the murderer can lie.
Colonel, what was the agreement between you and Dave?
I'd rented some land to him for the festival, but unbeknownst to me, he wanted to buy the adjoining land, and he thought with the hippies on the land that the land would become devalued and he'd get it very cheaply.
That was the extent of your involvement?
Yeah.
Right, now, on the strength of that, I want to know where it was done.
The dining room.
You're going for the dining room?
We'll go for the dining room.
Okay.
We'll go for the knife, because the... No. We'll go for what we get. Candlestick?
Picked up the candlestick.
Candlestick.
The candlestick? Yeah.
The candlestick.
And who done it?
So, dining room, candlestick, and Miss Scarlett.
Miss Scarlett now. Now, why have you come to this suddenly?
She was scorned in love, obviously. She was a bitter woman, having discovered the real reason that he was fraternizing with her.
Right, I can tell you that one of those is right, and
The
two
other
of them
two
are
are
wrong.
wrong.
Ah, right. Jim, Amanda.
Well,
Are we going to ask...
Yes. I don't know, are you?
Yes, I think
we'll
so.
ask. I think so.
Are we going to ask Miss... Thingy, what's his name? Colonel Mustard.
Colonel Mustard.
We want to know, were you having at any time a relationship with Miss Scarlett?
Miss Scarlett.
a slight relationship, yes.
How slight?
No,
what does slight mean?
I was fairly close to her, yes.
I think it must be more specific.
Going further than that.
Well, you can be closer than fairly close.
Yes, you can be.
Were you very close?
Very intimate, yes.
You were very intimate.
You were having
Very
an affair.
intimate.
You were having an affair, I think, weren't they?
Well, now
Were
this,
you?
yes.
This has been news to Mrs. Peacock,
Well, we,
who you were also being very intimate with. Right.
well then,
All
Now,
right.
what have you worked out then, Jim, Amanda?
Well-
Where was it done? What was it done with? And who done it?
Oh,
well, we certainly think it was Miss
Miss
Scarlett.
Scarlett.
Do it the other way around.
We'll do
for
it
me.
the other way
Awfully
around.
sorry, awfully
Right.
sorry.
Where was it done?
We will go the
So
other way around.
let us go the other way around.
It was done in the greenhouse.
There wasn't actually a greenhouse
Oh, no,
in the
there was no
overall
greenhouse.
plan.
There's no
Jim.
greenhouse, and there wasn't a bow and arrow, so hang on. We'll go for the study,
Yeah.
and shall we go for, if we do... Should we...
Come on.
Yeah, the
Candlestick changed situ. The candlestick did
See
change
what?
position.
Situ.
Situ.
That's a good
Change
word.
situ.
It was
Situ.
in
Change
situ,
situ.
and then it was over because, despite being terribly drunk, awfully drunk in that second scene,
Yes,
you were an embarrassment to
You were.
serving ladies. The candlestick had fallen over.
Right, come on then, Jim. Come
All
on,
right,
we're going to hurry.
so it's
Candlestick.
Study, candlestick,
Candlestick.
and definitely Miss Scarlett.
Miss Scarlett, I can tell you that 2 of those are right
Study.
and 1's wrong. Right, back to you, Mike Michelle.
Scarlett.
Right, we feel we're after the weapon now.
What room did you say that was?
We feel...
Oh, come on. Get...
Study, Candlestick, and Miss Scarlett. And one of those was wrong, 2 are correct.
Right, we feel that she wouldn't have been strong enough to do it with the telephone cable, were it Miss Scarlett. I think...
You're fishing, Reed.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to... I think we'll fish with a spanner. We'll go for the study, the spanner, and Miss Scarlett.
I can tell you that one of those is wrong, and I wonder which one it is. One of those 3 is wrong. Back to you, Amanda and Jim.
Miss Scarlett, what room were you eavesdropping on? Could we have the name of... What room were you outside?
It was the study.
What room... I meant to say, what room were you in?
Oh, I was in the hall.
Thank you.
That was not a room.
Right. So, come on then, Jim. The answer is... The room was the...
Library.
The weapon was the... It might be right,
Candlestick.
it might not.
Candlestick.
And the
Miss Scarlett.
library, Candlestick, Miss Scarlett. One of those is right, 2 of those are wrong.
So we now know it is the study.
Well, you can ask one more question if you want.
Oh no, I think we'll
Come on then, Smarty Pants, you better be right. Come
we
on then.
think the study of the knife, because the knife was in the study, because Mrs. Peacock had it in there, and Miss Scarlett.
Miss Scarlett.
I can tell you it was the study, it was the knife, and it was Miss Scarlett.
I thought Dave was wonderful. Someone I could finally believe in. Then I heard him talking to Colonel Mustard. He betrayed me. He betrayed us all, but he made me look like a complete fool. And that's something I couldn't stand. He was so vain. He didn't even realize until it was too late. It was very easy. All I had to do was wipe my prints from the handle and slip back into the drawing room. I thought I could get away with it. After all, I was the only one who didn't hate him.
So it was the innocent-looking Miss Scarlett. Our apologies to the other 5 who are innocent and may go free. Only Miss Scarlett must remain behind, probably for a very, very long time. Commiserations, though, to Amanda and Jim. Congratulations to Michelle and Mike. See you next time on Cluedo. Good night.